Hello, I'm Dr. Eleni Meletiadou. I'm an associate professor in equity, diversity, and inclusion, working for the Guildhall School of Business and Law here at London Metropolitan University. And I'm delighted that I can present one of my projects at the London Met Research Conference. So this project is called Bullets in Their Heads, and I will share with you my reflections on early career academics experiences of sexual harassment and gender-based violence in the UK. This is an overview of my presentation. I will start by providing an introduction to the study, talk about the research methods, present preliminary findings, discuss the limitations, and then talk about the implications for research and practice. So sexual harassment and other forms of offensive behavior and serious problems are serious problems within academia. So despite all the visions, procedures, and active measures designed to bring about change, these stubbornly persist and are reproduced in education and in everyday work. So these affect students and staff alike and are found in all disciplines. So what do we mean by sexual harassment? Basically, we're talking about bullying, cyberbullying, victimization, and incivility. So sexual harassment can thus be viewed as a form of sexism. And anthropologist Sarah Franklin argues that sexism in academia should be understood as a means of academic reproduction. So sexual harassment and gender-based violence create a systematic and recurring pattern of unwelcome effects that can be understood as institutional mechanisms and behaviors that risk being normalized. On the other hand, according to Franklin, sexism in academia works through violence, threats, prohibition, and on the other hand, by encouraging and supporting silence. Silence is a key word here, and also the feeling of shame and distortion. So when investigating sexism, it is important to cast light on the practices and methods that are selectively but routinely used to justify sexist behavior. So aside from being a persistent problem that is reproduced year after year, sexual harassment is also notable for underreporting and a culture of silence. And few of those subjected to sexual harassment choose to report their experience, meaning that official statistics do not really reflect what is happening. There is increased research on sexual harassment and gender-based violence in the academy, especially lately, but few studies report on how it manifests within groups of female early career academics in higher education. So this study argues that female early career researchers tend to be exploited due to the ongoing neoliberalization of the higher education sector. And research indicates that higher education institutions usually conceal or cannot record, at least, data on incidents of violence on precarious female academics, and that official reports often ignore or underrate the phenomenon of gender-based violence. So in terms of this study, we use qualitative research design and an interpretivist philosophy. This was a multiple exploratory case study. We used an interdisciplinary approach, and we had 32 precarious academics experiences from 4 public universities in the UK using lengthy semi-structured in-depth interviews. The sampling was snowball, coming from connections, and we used thematic analysis in Atlas TI. And the search question, which are the challenges that female precarious academics face in terms of sexual harassment and gender-based violence in higher education institutions? The preliminary findings indicated that psychological violence emerged as one of the most distinct manifestations of gender violence identified by the participants. Of the 32 participants, 29 experienced psychological violence and described behaviors including coercive control, verbal abuse, exclusion, and manipulation. 27 interviewees also mentioned sexual harassment, which manifested through various behaviors such as comments, for example, of sexual nature, sexy jokes, and so on. And the majority of the participants referred to instances of sexual violence, for example, attempts to obtain a sexual act, physical, and also sometimes online violence. So, when we talk about sexual harassment behaviors, we need to understand what exactly this is. And you can see here the percentage that these specific behaviors were reported in my data. So, what were evident? Unwanted touching, hugging, and so on, persistent and unwanted invitations of a sexual nature, non-verbal sexual harassment, verbal remarks of sexual nature, talking about spreading rumors, sexual assault or rape, and message of a sexual nature. So it's not about only the sexual act, but it's about how these people drive their victims towards that. So you can see here some of the quotes that participants shared with us. For example, you can see the first one, female academics often consider themselves poor academic performers. Even the men perceive them like that. So it starts off from a syndrome of inferiority. Also, it could be the culture and the way women are brought up. Still, women are brought up in this way. And sometimes males know that, for example, some girls are easygoing, so everybody is easygoing. So these are false assumptions and false way of treating women. Of course, there are limitations. We would like to see the long-term effects of this study. We would like to have a look at LGBTQ plus precarious academics, but we didn't. We would like to look at race. We would like to have more universities involved, but already it was really a miracle to be able to find and ensure that these people voluntarily offer their insights. So what are the implications for research and practice? The current study addresses a gap in the literature on the experiences of female precarious workers in higher education institutions in the UK as regards gender-based violence and harassment. As university, sometimes often these are male managers, have often used inappropriate interventions to respond to this phenomenon. So this study offers recommendations for HR managers, policymakers, senior leadership teams in higher education, potential intervention to address unequal relationships and backlash against female agency would need to go beyond typical behavioral interventions that promote healthy relationships to address the wider context of misogyny seen on these universities. We need gender transformative interventions which promote gender equitable relationships by shifting gender norms, and also male faculty. We should look at the phenomenon of male faculty still manipulating female academics who seek or accept academic help from males. So this may view female academics as weaker academically and resent affirmative action policies. So, as we discussed this study, we need to point out that verbal, non-verbal, and physical behaviors constitute sexual harassment. It's not about only the sexual act. And these are common outside of work and educational environments as well. There's absence of a widely agreed upon definition in research of what constitutes sexual harassment, and we need that. Research also that has been looking into gender differences in the perception of sexual harassment has yielded varying results. So we need greater inclusion of female precarious academics in institutional processes, positioning them as agents of social change rather than as passive victims. And this need also to needs further implementation with regard to protection, especially in emotional terms. So thank you for your attention. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Please feel free to contact me. These are my references. Thank you so much.